On today's show, Jordan Peele is not in that because that's Batman. Then we'll get to Jordan Peele because he's got a new teaser poster. And then finally, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Look, honestly, this is the only movie I care about talking about. Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's getting the big screen treatment, and now we have a director. All that and more on today's Collider Movie Talk. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Right there is the obtuse John Rocha. Over there is the acute Perri Nemiroff. How are we today, panel?
I liked that intro.
Yeah. Figure we'll go with the triangle angles.
I feel like an isosceles. I'll be honest with you. That's how I feel right now. Isosceles triangle.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Don't
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our last movie talk of the week, but we have a lot of cool news stories to get to. Then we're going to save some time for your Twitter questions at the end, as we usually do, kicking things off with a scary Batman idea. So James Wan is doing a lot of interviews right now. He has a movie coming out. I don't know if you heard about it, Aquaman. And James Wan comes from a horror directing background. He also has a great production company that's cranking out a lot of horror movies in his stead that he's either a producer on or just helps usher in a lineage of new directors. He was talking to Josh Horowitz on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, and Wan revealed that for a brief time, there was a scary version of Batman that he had pitched that was being taken seriously, and I will quote him. He said it was kind of real for like 2 seconds. That's enough for us to talk about. It wasn't something I was necessarily going to ultimately pursue. I didn't pursue just because I felt, there's been a lot of Batman stories, which is great. I'm a big fan of the Batman world and the Batman character, and I think they're great filmmakers. They're going to come in and do great things with the character. He just decided it wasn't for me. He didn't get too deep in the pitch, but he did say, I think horror would have been the angle I would have taken, do a scary version of Batman, whatever that means. I love this idea, and I don't think that this is too far out of the realm of possibility. Perhaps not with James Wan being the director, but the reason why we're opening the show with it is because look at what DC has been doing with some of their better-known properties recently. It doesn't have to exist in one universe like what they're doing at Marvel. This can be a just one-off Joker movie, or this can be something else. We don't know where Birds of Prey is landing. Hell, we don't know where the movies that we thought were in the DCEU actually exist, so why not do a scary version of Batman? Let's be honest, kids. You put Batman on a movie poster, people are going to show up opening weekend. And the curiosity factor of an R-rated Batman that's got a horror angle, I am all for this. John Rocha, are you going to accompany me to that theater Thursday night, whatever year it is?
I'll be honest with you. If they announced this first before the Aquaman thing, I'd have been super excited for it. James Wan tackling a horror version of Batman. There are a lot of stories in the Batman canon that work horror-wise. Long Halloween, he's chasing down a serial killer. There's Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum, where he gets locked in Arkham Asylum. He gets turned to a blubbering mess by having to mess with all those people all at once, because guess what? Batman is still human. He's not some god. So that would have been fun to explore as well. There's another, The Cult. The Cult's another one that they could have done and turned into a horror thing where he becomes brainwashed and Robin has to save him. So there's all kinds of fascinating stories that would have been explored here. Would have been great. And hopefully down the road, a director steps in this situation and does a horror approach to Batman, because hey, he's the Dark Knight. He is a bat that in the darkness, he's supposed to scare these criminals. Wouldn't it be interesting if there was a horror thing with Batman involved? It just seems to make sense.
Yeah, Perri, which one of Rocha's pitches? Because I all of a sudden, look, we know this. If you've been a regular reviewer of Movie Talk, we know that Rocha knows people in very high places, and sometimes he divulges information. So Rocha just gave us a number of opportunities to have a horror movie Batman. Which version do you like?
I'm going to surprise you all and say I actually don't love this idea. So
you're off the witching hour. Cancel the podcast.
Let's say that obviously it isn't happening, but let's say it did happen. James Wan directing a horror movie with Batman in it. I would see it no matter what. That doesn't matter. But especially after having seen Aquaman and seeing where they're taking this DC film franchise, unless this was part of the part of the franchise that we have this Joker movie, I don't know if I would want that dark spin on it, because one of the cool things I did think that Aquaman has is this opportunity, one, to sell some like really nice uplifting messages, but also to broaden the fan base. I mean, an entire family can go see that movie. So I'm kind of glad that James Wan went that route. Matt Reeves is working on his new Batman, and who knows what this Joker thing is going to wind up being, but let's say that Joker movie is super, super dark, gritty, maybe even semi-horrific. Then if that's successful after that, maybe they can have an alt Batman, but I'm kind of happy this character is in Matt Reeves' hands.
Yeah, see, I would look at this Joker movie being like a psychological thriller, at least until we get more information about it. It is somewhat of, the king of comedy through a funhouse mirror. With this, I'm looking at this, and I'm not thinking of dark Batman, okay? I've seen dark, gritty Batman. That's been the bulk of Batman that we've seen in the theaters. I'm thinking horror movie Batman, because Batman, as Rocha pointed out, has been used to frighten criminals. I mean, you see how scared they are of this thing, the Bat. Imagine if that was running around your town. Where are you from out there? Say it. Cincinnati? Imagine if there was just a huge giant bat rumor of this person running around and stopping crime. But it's also something that we talked about yesterday with the advent of this Brightburn trailer. Now we have a superhero that could break bad instead of good. So you can take this in any number of directions, Perri.
I could spin it a little. Okay, one shot that I really love from Batman Begins, when everyone's on the island, and I think it was a kid or one character who looks up and they see the creepy version of Batman just soaring above them. I love that. But with what you were just saying, an idea that I think has potential that could fall into the horror genre firmly, because also dark, gritty crime thriller is completely different than, let's say, the horror movies we've seen from James Wan before, which is what I picture when he says scary Batman. But what if it was from somebody else's perspective that wasn't Batman, and it was a bunch of, a Jaws-like tease of Batman, and they think it's some big bad, and then it's revealed to be, someone more along the lines of a vigilante who's trying to do good.
You see this, Rocha?
And scaring people in the process.
Opens up and she puts up a wall. She says, "No, don't come at me with your horror Batman."
Right.
I think we've won Perri Nemiroff over.
I'm chipping away at it.
Well, yeah, and I think because like the ones I propose are the ones where Batman is in deficit. Batman's going through the horror, not Batman is the horror, right? Batman is going through the horror and experiencing the horror himself. That would be fun to see a Bruce Wayne scared to the nines about what he's experiencing and having to find his way through it. That's the appeal of Batman, is that he's a human being, not a god, and so he's just like us trying to figure things out. And so that would be fun to explore. I like what you say too from the other perspective. Brian Azzarello did a nice graphic novel of the Joker, where you're seeing the Joker through one of his henchmen's eyes, a new henchman that joins his crew. So you're seeing the Joker through his eyes, while this guy is going through his journey because he wanted to work for the Joker, because the Joker is this great big crime boss. He wants to work for him, but as he gets more exposure to the Joker, the fear of his mania and his schizophrenia just consumes the dude, and he is a blubbering mess by the end of that novel, surprised and relieved that he survived his night with the Joker. So it's a fantastic thing that if you turn that into Batman, you could do your idea that Batman is like a horror thing, and this person or cop goes along with Batman and sees all the stuff Batman has to go through or do. Then the cop is almost scared because Batman doesn't have time to mollycoddle or care for you. You got to roll with him, or if you don't, you get caught up in the mess. And so I think that's an interesting approach to it as well.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Let's try to be realistic about this for a minute, because I would love to see a horror movie featuring Batman. I don't know what he did. Maybe he tries to dig up his parents like Pet Sematary. I don't know what you want to do with your horror Batman movie, but is Batman too iconic of a character to do the route that they're going with Joker? Because we have multiple Jokers that are going to exist on the big screen in the same time. And Batman is somebody that has always been used not just as a one-off movie, but to launch franchises, and not just franchises that feature Batman, that feature all the Batman villains in there, and then that feature the other members of a Justice League. I know Man of Steel came out first, but they quickly got Batman in there, and then Batman is the one that's on the recruiting trail getting all these other heroes on board so they can fight whoever they need to battle with. Is Batman too big of a character to do a one-off in a different vein? Because you're gonna have the Matt Reeves Batman movie come out, and then could we do a different version of Batman that just exists as its own film?
I don't see why not. I think that's what this Joker movie is hopefully gonna prove, is that we could have different renditions of this character for different audiences out there. I think more so than just, Batman and his icon status and weighing it based on that, it's more of a budget issue too. Because I feel like if we're talking about a dark and, again, a scary version of Batman, you need to see what we're seeing with the Joker movie, which is going from a budget this big to something maybe half the size, where you could play around and you could take some risks, because no doubt a scary version of Batman would be a major risk.
Yeah, Rocha, all of these filmmakers that have great horror movie backgrounds, or somebody that's up and coming that wants to make a horror horror film, they're going to be watching, as is the studio, what this Joker movie does with the box office, because this thing costs $50-60 million. This thing blows up and brings in $250 million domestically. All of a sudden, you have DC and Warner greenlighting a lot of movies that could take place simultaneously with other characters in theaters.
Well, I think what's changing is like my generation is super precious about, oh, it's one Batman, it's one Superman, it's one this, it's one
Back
that.
in my days, there was only one Batman.
Exactly. There's only one. Damn it. But you see now the new generation, especially with a number of reiterations of DC and Marvel and other independent companies, you see other people taking the mantles. Multiple Spider-Mans just worked in Into the Spider-Verse. You all are going to get a chance to see that this weekend. You could have multiple people. We're going to have multiple Jokers now because Jared Leto has not said he's done playing Joker. And so now you have Joaquin Phoenix doing it. So to me, I think the generations below us are letting go of the preciousness of only one. The TV shows work. We have two different Flashes. The TV shows do show you that versus the movies, two different Flashes going on there. So to me, I think we're losing the preciousness of it as a geek society, as a geek culture, and we're more open to seeing other people portray these characters because we're excited about seeing these characters on screen in different versions. So I think that's why the possibility of having multiple Batmans or different Batman movies or one-off Batman movies is a possibility, because you want to see what this actor, this director, this production team can do with this version of Batman in this story. It excites you, and as long as you have a narrative that is the main universe, you can play around with all this stuff and see what you can create. And I agree with you, Mark, that Joker movie is really going to go a long way to showing what we can do with these one-off films. So it excites me on so many levels.
All right, before we move on to our next story that also involves the dark and scary things.
Is this going to be a this or that question?
It's going to be a casting question. I want y'all to cast, and this is actually right in your wheelhouse, Perri, because I want you to name an actor you think would be a good Bruce Wayne / Batman in a horror movie. So it can you can be under the assumption that this is a Batman who is a villain, so to speak, or it could just be Batman who's a good guy, but through the eyes of somebody who views him as a horror antagonist through the bulk of the movie. So you imagine that Matt Reeves is going to cast somebody. It'd be great if they got Affleck for the horror Batman.
Yes.
You imagine Matt Reeves is going to cast somebody who's a typical Bruce Wayne, maybe a little older, maybe a little younger, a nice pretty boy to play this character. Who is going to be the horror Batman that you would line up to see in the movie theater?
It's funny because as I started to think about names, I started to think about individuals that I think would be a great fit for characters more along the lines of a Joker or Riddler. I think Caleb Landry Jones is kind of on the cusp, and I think it's because when you add in the horror element and all the stuff you talk about this character being a little unhinged. That's why I go in that direction. But I'm trying to think of somebody who could be the horror version of Batman and also match that necessary physicality, and that's not coming to mind as quick.
Okay, Rocha, you go David Schwimmer. Why?
I go David Schwimmer. I think he'd be a great Batman.
He's a good actor.
He's a good actor, yeah.
I like Schwimmer.
Not necessarily a scary actor. For a horror, it's interesting. Where do you catch Batman? At what stage in his life are you going to set this horror? Because to me, my immediate thought is Jake Gyllenhaal. I know he's been considered for Bruce Wayne and Batman before, but if there's anyone that can bring ferocity to the role in a horror film,
like a Nightcrawlery Batman.
Exactly, or get him like even messed up in the head and what he's going through, and have these iconic screams that he loves to have in his movies now. It would be great to see his version of Batman. But I would throw in the guy who plays Daredevil on the TV version,
Charlie Cox.
Charlie Cox. I like Charlie
Double
Cox
C.
a lot. His fight work in Daredevil is incredible. He has a smoothness to him. He has a charm and an attractiveness to him. And I think he could play Batman. It wouldn't be interesting to see him play a Batman horror film, juxtaposed with that what he's able to do with Daredevil, which is in essence kind of a version of Batman in the Marvel universe.
The guy knows how to maneuver rooftops in cities very well, so maybe he is it. And this is going to sound like I'm going back on my excitement for the horror movie. It's not, but I love the idea of Oscar Isaac playing Batman. When those rumors going around, I was like, yes, this is perfect. I don't want to waste Oscar Isaac on a one-off horror, but I want Oscar Isaac to be like our Batman going forward for another decade. So go with me on this one. The physical presence isn't what you think of with Batman. So Ben Foster, because Ben Foster can play somebody who's damaged, somebody who psychologically has things going on, and he doesn't fit the macho, muscly role of what we expect Bruce Wayne to be. But again, if
he can definitely bulk up a little.
He could bulk up if he wants to,
without going in a superhero vibe along the lines of, let's say, like a Rock or John Cena.
Yeah.
There's most rich kids who witness their parents get murdered, have a butler doting on them have billions upon billions of dollars, may not get in the gym as often as the classic Bruce Wayne that we know. They may just sit around and come up with ideas to somehow get their tortured soul out there into the world. And I think that Ben Foster could be that guy. It's a scary image of a bat, not necessarily somebody with giant pecs and abs.
Have you ever seen the movie, I think it's either Hostage or Hostages, the one with Bruce Willis and Ben Foster is the bad guy? That performance in that movie freaked me out. Actually, another person in that movie that could be good for this, Jonathan Tucker, who was just in Westworld and Kingdom. He's got like the physical ability, and I've seen him do menacing performances before where maybe he could sell it also.
Ben Barnes is a possibility, which you see in Punisher, right? That guy, he plays the criminal in Punisher. He'd be an interesting choice. I like the idea of an old Russell Crowe as an old Batman. Like Russell Crowe as an old brother. Not old Russell Crowe, but a Russell Crowe as an old Batman, like questioning his abilities. Maybe he's not like a half a step slow, so the horror gets at him and messes with his mind because he can't fight like he used to. He can't do the things that he used to as quickly as before. So that would be interesting, especially if you throw him in Arkham Asylum. He's a great Bruce Wayne. He's a great Batman. It would be very interesting to see an old Batman as Russell Crowe doing it.
It's a really fun conversation. I don't know what everybody out there thinks about a horror movie Batman. Were you on board when you saw the fact that we're talking about this? And now has anybody won you over to see a horror movie Batman? What I love about this conversation is that now we know the nightly viewing habits of both Perri and Rocha. Rocha's watching the Marvel ones on Netflix, and Perri is at the Red Box renting any Bruce Willis movie that she can find. I'm going to throw one more name in there, then we're going to call today horror movie Batman Stephen Lang. Older Batman, grizzled in the cape and cowl, haunting, scaring people. Stephen Lang. That's my guy.
I'm into it.
All right, our next story. This is the one we're really excited to talk about. Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was a classic Nickelodeon show that ran for about a decade on Nick at Night. Was it Snick? Remember, it was Snick, right? You had like your roundhouse. It was just all preamble to getting to Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Midnight Society, a bunch of kids who are gathering in the woods, not to smoke dope or drink alcohol. They probably did that off camera. They're telling scary stories, and now we're going to have a big screen adaptation. We already reported that one of the screenwriters of It is writing the film, and now we have our director, and that is Mr. DJ Caruso. DJ Caruso, who has done a number of films that, I'll be honest, have not really grabbed my attention. This pick doesn't really scream, oh, now I'm excited for Are You Afraid of the Dark? I was anyway because of the property, Rocha. Yeah. Does the fact that DJ Caruso is doing that, who's done things like I Am Number 4, right. He's made films that just haven't really spoke to me. Maybe I'm not the right audience for the films he's made. Maybe I'm not going to be the right audience for Are You Afraid of the Dark? But I want to see this movie. Do you, now that DJ Caruso is the director?
It interests me, that's for sure, because I like Disturbia. I actually like Eagle Eye. I know it kind of falls apart at the end there, but I do like the way he directs that film and what he tackles with that idea of technology being able to take control of your life and the spies and all that kind of stuff. It's a kind of a prescient film now when you go back and watch it. So, but his track record is kind of spotty. That being said, well, it's really spotty. That being said, though, there must be a reason they saw something in his pitch or in his conversation or in the meeting where they felt his vision for this could work. Plus, you have a screenwriter who's worked on The Conjuring and The Nun. So
Gary Dauberman,
yeah. So he understands this property or horror rather, and how to maybe bring this property to life. You have DJ Caruso, who's a very competent filmmaker, and sometimes we see these filmmakers like kind of have spotty records, but then find their niche in horror and really do well with this kind of stuff. Certainly Disturbia, he built up the stress and the tension. Really, David Morse is creepy as hell in that movie, and a lot of that is because of DJ Caruso's direction. And LaBeouf, I'd say that's a great performance by LaBeouf as well. So to me, and it's a version of Rear Window. So to me, that tells me the guy has horror in his bones. So it's a nice choice.
Well, the thing with Disturbia, and then also, I mean, even though I really didn't like Eagle Eye at all, that movie just turned me off for whatever reason. But I Am Number 4, I actually got into that movie a little bit, and I think the reason because maybe the reason why he's tapped for doing this is because he does work well with younger actors, with actors who are of the teen age, who will be the primary protagonist, you would think, telling the stories in this movie, Perri.
Yeah, not in I Am Number 4, though.
Wow,
Disturbia, maybe.
I really turned Perri off with that comment.
I was not a fan. That movie made me cry. Do you know when that movie made me cry? No, well, I thought it was pretty bad. But spoiler for I Am Number 4. You know how the monster sidekick turns into the beagle, and there's a scene where the monster is injured and then transforms into the beagle, and we see the poor beagle laying on the floor?
Okay, if we could not talk about injured beagles for the rest of the day.
Exactly.
I forgot about that. I'll be honest, Perri. I forgot most of the movie.
I mean, I flat out was weeping after that and couldn't wait to get up and leave.
I might as well, too.
Not for that reason alone, but this, I'm super pumped for Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was my show as a kid growing up. I watched everything, had to talk about every single episode. And still to this day, because I think when the news first broke, I went back and I rewatched a couple. And yeah, I don't know if you're going to show them to a kid who's never seen the show before, but with the nostalgia effect, I think they were still working pretty well. But I love Disturbia, and the rest of this resume underwhelms me, and I can think of probably a couple other people who I would get a little more excited about should they wind up with this job. But the fact that Doberman is writing the script gives me a little bit of hope, because I do think that this movie could maybe not necessarily go full R, because I doubt they're going to do that, but I think it could overlap nicely with the vibe in It. So if they manage to capture that, we could be in good shape. But, DJ Caruso has to do a little something to kind of win back my faith.
Well, we should know this comes via a report from Bloody Disgusting, a very reputable horror movie news reporter website and other things, but he's in talks right now. So he hasn't been, ink's not on paper just yet, but could be DJ Caruso directing it. I sign off on most of what y'all said, is that I'm a big fan of Disturbia. So if we can get that DJ Caruso coming back to be able to do something like this, I don't know if they will do vignettes or it'll be like one longer winding story, or just have them get together and tell smaller tales that each are about 20 minutes like what the TV show was. I think it'd be fine either way. With Are You Afraid of the Dark, you may want to spread your wings and say, let's do a horror story that's like a vampire. Let's do a werewolf. Let's do something else. Let's do a dead pirate. There was a great episode of the TV show.
Yes, there was.
So
I'm curious to see what they do with the story. I think that's the information I'm looking forward to seeing most, because, even though we're grown up and it's a different day and age, there was always this timeless, classic vibe to all of their ghost stories. So I kind of hope they maintain that rather than, make basically the unfriended version of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Ooh. Yeah, scary stuff.
Unfriended is good.
Okay.
All right, well, lest we debate that, I think one thing we can all agree on is that we really enjoyed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We had a screening, part of our Collider screening series. We did a Q&A afterwards, and you can check out the entire Q&A right now on this very channel, Collider Video. You can also check out our spoiler-heavy review is going to be going up tonight for Spider-Verse. So go see the movie. Afterwards, come on back and check out the spoiler review. We also already have a non-spoiler review that is up for your viewing pleasure. Very excited for everybody to check that movie out and let us know what you thought of the movie. Really appreciate all of your thoughts, your comments, your witticisms, even when you think Collider hates Aquaman, because we don't. I actually really like the movie. We move on to our next story, Beware the Ides of March. And that is Jordan Peele's next film, opening March 15th of 2019. The movie is called Us. Sorry, This Is Us fans. This is not your movie. This is a film where a family aims for an idyllic getaway on the beach, and things start to go sour once uninvited visitors come and knock on. Don't you hate when you want to get away from it? You want to do like a Knights and Rodanthe kind of thing, just an intimate couple, or now that you're going to bring the kids along, and then you just get a. And who the hell is that? Oh, God, it's somebody. Are they trying to kill us? I love this cast already. I mean, you have Lupita Nyong'o plays the mother. Winston Duke is the father. They take their kids to this beach house. And Elizabeth Moss is one of the friends, I believe, in this, too. So the cast looks great. Jordan Peele's directing it, Rocha. This is coming out early in 2019, about a month after Get Out was. I have big hopes for this, and now we have the first look at the poster. What do you make of it?
Certainly creepy. I like the idea of the leather glove. Is that a driving glove? What kind of glove is that? And the hands are black, so does that mean Lupita? And it looks a female hand. So is Lupita possibly the killer in this? Like, I don't know.
Are you sure those are? Can you tell whose hands those are?
Do you not see the skin right here on the wrist?
I can't get past the glove.
Okay, fair enough.
Looks like
the glove is
something
very creepy.
that Gosling would wear and drive.
So there you go. So it's a driving glove.
Yeah.
But the gold gold scissors is a nice touch. Obviously, the red works. Horror, red and black is pretty much the standard colors for horror. But like the idea of gold, I love that. What do the gold scissors signify? Scissors just in that motion, where there's like stabbing kind of motion, direction at least, and the idea of scissors cutting something up. So there's a lot of allusions to this poster that I thoroughly enjoy. And that red, we've seen what in *Handmaid's Tale*, the red. We've seen the Christmas trees in red. We've seen this red kind of illusion there with the jacket. Like, what does this all mean? So to me, I love the poster, and it feels very like old school Gothic. The font of us just feels very old school Gothic. So all around, I'm excited about it. I hope it's good because Jordan did such a great job with Get Out. So a sophomore effort, you always worry about a sophomore effort. So I'm excited.
And he's working on that Twilight Zone series as well right now.
Yeah.
And I love that this poster on the top of it, Perri, it says from Academy Award winner Jordan Peele. It's just so great to remember that evening for him. The trailer drops at Christmas, so celebrate Christmas, gather loved ones around and watch this probably very scary trailer for us. Who's at the door, Perri? Is it a cult? Is it just neighbors who are just keeping their music up? Who is disturbing the serenity of this beach getaway?
I just got so hung up on your comment, and I wanted to just name a whole bunch of red things, but you already took all that.
It's very what are they? The Praetorian Guard in
yeah.
Star Wars?
We could throw that. They could possibly be in this movie too. Who knows?
That'd be fantastic.
I'm looking at the design of it, and so it's like they have unwanted strangers come. I wonder if the signifier here is the scissors going right in between us. Maybe some sort of psychological thriller that divides the family, or maybe even the family and the friends, something like that. But at this point, I don't care if I have any of the answers. Jordan Peele and this lead cast is such an easy sell. I am so eager to see that trailer because really, I mean, your guess is as good as mine at this point.
Yeah. I just am so excited to see movies like this because, look, I love a good horror movie. We already have a pretty impressive slate of horror films that are set for release in the early part of 2019. I mean, you have the Curse of La Llorona, which is something I'm really excited about.
I'm so pumped for that one.
And then you also have us. I mean, do you guys do the beach getaway? Do you ever rent a house on the beach? I've done it a number of times. I've never had a problem, knock on wood, with any visitor, anybody coming to the house, anybody disturbing my serenity. Did it in Hawaii, did it in, I don't know, somewhere in North Carolina where you do like a beach week situation. So I've had good luck with beach houses.
I don't think I've ever rented a beach house, but in upstate New York, I've rented a house. Like, how they have those communities? There's a place called Woodlock Pines, and I rented with a bunch of friends a couple houses, and we had like a whole little cul-de-sac.
What are these communities you're talking? I don't know.
It's like a little vacation community.
Okay. All right.
It's like a little resort, but instead of going to the Caribbean or whatnot, it's upstate New York.
It's like
and
the Hamptons for the rest of us.
They have like lakes and stuff.
Yeah. Hey, they got lakes and stuff, Rocha. Yeah. What is your beach going attire?
That's how the other half lives. No, we would go when I was going to college at Florida State. My friend Michael had a condo. His parents had a condo in St. Augustine, so we would go in the summers, and we would stay there for like a week in the condo and enjoy St. Augustine right on the beach, and there's pools and everything. It was a lot of fun there. But I mean, we live in Los Angeles, so to me, renting out a beach house seems useless because I could literally drive 20 minutes and go to the beach myself and hang out. But it's nice to walk amongst the beach houses there in Manhattan Beach. Man, those are some nice beach houses. I'm sure they're like 10 million a pop, but they are beautiful to walk. So I'd love to have a beach house.
I know why Rocha doesn't want a beach house, because he's got 99 friends that are all going to try. Some of them are going to be uninvited visitors. They're going to see you on Instagram. They're going to say, hey, man, we all saw Last Jedi together. Remember, we were all there at Force Awakens. Why won't you invite us to your beach house? And that's when you get a movie like us, because there's just too many damn people.
You got to split it up. You got to split them up with the gold scissors.
That's the good thing about going to if all you kids out there are watching, you're considering where to go to college, and you're thinking, well, I could go to an Iowa, or I could go to a Minnesota. Hey, I got into University of Florida. I got into Florida State. Just remember this. When you go to Florida or Florida State or any one of those colleges that are down there, you are going to meet somebody on your hall that has a beach house. The family owns a beach house. So you are going to be able to go and you're going to live out your dream of having an outlaw vacation where you get to go and hang out. Just be careful, because if you go to one of those schools, there might be some other characters that are also going to the beach house. So I don't do the beach houses. This is a true story. Quick diversion is we went from Akuga's bachelor party.
Oh, it must have been great.
A bunch of us us went. Yeah, you were not on the guest list. I think I invited you down for one night. I think I did. I went down there, and it was like 3 nights in a beach house that they got. Really nice beach house right in Pacific Beach. And I get there, and I see my room or my bunk, and I'm just, in my head, I driving down there, I was really excited, and I felt like, 18, 21-year-old Mark Ellis, like, we're going to come down, hang out with the boys, going to be a great weekend, staying at the house. And then as soon as I saw where I was staying, 37-year-old Mark Ellis is like, there's a hotel right over there, and I am staying by myself. I do not want to stay with anybody else, especially when a lot of sand is involved.
I would have a story when it turned 2000, the year 2000. Remember how everyone was crazy with the Y2K? It was like, we got to save up, get water. The world's going to end, everything's going to flip over. Well, to celebrate, because we survived that Y2K, New Year's Eve night, I ran down from the condo and took off all my clothes, a la the woman from Jaws, and just jumped right into the pool to celebrate and make it, be fun, one of those characters. Little did I know that on the other end of the pool were the rich folks, because my friend's dad's a doctor, were the rich folks in black tie and cocktail dresses having a New Year's Eve party by the pool. So I was in there naked, unable to come out of the pool until people came down with a towel so I could jump out. But certainly some people got a shot of the moon that night, that's for sure.
All right, Perri, beat that story.
Oh, no. I definitely can't touch that one. I'm trying to think of like a place that I've stayed that's not great. I mean, it's never for vacation, but when I was in film school and we made one of my thesis films, we stayed at a LARPing camp. You know what LARPing is?
What is LARPing?
It's live action role playing. So it's like, what's the movie with Paul Rudd where they were LARPers? Like that. So it was a big place with all the role models. That's what it was. But it was super just like bare bones. There was nothing in it, and we all had to bring sleeping bags and stuff. And there were a lot of bugs.
Our mutual friends Matt and Brittany, I believe they either got married or he proposed to doing like a LARPing kind of thing, live action role playing. Ken Knapsack was involved. Ken is really good at being characters from other universes, so they had a good time. I would go LARPing. Think that'd be fun. Remind me to not celebrate New Year's with Rocha anytime soon. And we move on to our final story. Then we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. Go ahead and start tweeting us at Collider Video. Use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk. The last one should be a fun little debate. May not get to the point where we're talking about a naked John Rocha jumping into rich people's pools, but we'll see where this conversation leads. It's about the new Lion King film directed by Jon Favreau. It's unlike the animated film from the 90s because this one is live action. Or is it? What the hell is this movie? That's the debate that filmmakers and people of note in Hollywood, people who own really famous and expensive houses, they probably have pools that Rocha has jumped into naked at some point, are arguing back and forth about this in a pleasant way because this is a conversation that is continuing to evolve. It has since the glory days of Andy Serkis playing characters like Gollum and King Kong, and it's like, well, is that a live action performance? Is that animated? Is that just performance capture? Is it motion? What the hell is this thing? And what's interesting about The Lion King is that there is no performance capture. These are all computer rendered. So is it a live action movie or is it a photorealistic animated movie? There's so much debate right now. We do have a clip we're going to go to, but before we throw to the clip, I want to get your initial take on this debate. Is this movie live action? Is it animated? You can't go in between. What is your answer?
I'm glad you say initial take, because this is a conversation that's going to continue to evolve. And all I have right now are preliminary details that I knew before reading this roundtable and the information I got during the roundtable. So given all that, I kind of side with the animation element because I know the whole virtual production thing, it's about using live action filmmaking techniques with these digital tools, and that makes sense to me. But the second you take out all of the living actors with performance capture or whatnot, or even like a Jungle Book where you have one true human individual in the middle of it all, then, I mean, isn't it just an animated feature?
I feel like the Jungle Book is a live action movie.
Yeah.
Because it had a lot of performance, motion capture, whatever version of that term you can use that won't offend the actors.
Right.
And it had a kid in it who's running around, and that wasn't a CGI kid, Rocha.
Yeah, I tell you, in my mind, I just was like, it's live action. But after reading this, I have to side that it's animation. But I also side in this place that that's okay. that this is, as the natural order of things, a progression from hand-drawn animation to computer animation to now computer animation or CGI that looks lifelike, photorealistic, and that's a version of animation. I think for me, what I got out of this was this idea that what I've been championing, and the late great John Schnepp and I would battle all the time about whether actors should be nominated for best actors like Andy Serkis for what they do in their motion capture. What these animators saying that they have them animate certain emotions on the faces and looks and whatever that the actor is not doing at all in there, and that is fascinating to me. That opens this whole door of like, well, then how do we look at motion capture? Can we nominate it or not nominate it? Because if the animators are working in conjunction with the actors and creating emotional performances from these actors that the audience doesn't know the animators is doing, that they think they're using the actors as the template for it, then we have a whole new way to appreciate motion capture, but also judge it as whether it qualifies for best actor or not. And that to me is the takeaway from this. It's easy to decide this animation or not animation. I think it's pretty obvious that it is a version of animation, but this idea that somehow the animators contribute to the actor's performance, well, then how much of that is, that's just an incredible conversation to have, more nuanced conversation to have.
It's a great bar conversation to have, and it does merit consideration when you talk about awards and who should be nominated for what category of award. We'll be right back in a sec, but we do want to throw to a clip that features Andy Serkis and Christian Bale talking about this very issue. Take it away, gentlemen.
Virtual production is a way of, you can, using a virtual camera and the CG world, you can basically plot out the entire movie. It's the same as old-fashioned storyboards, but you're doing it with a moving camera, with pre-visualization, with animated versions of characters. So that's that, and then you can actually take those shots all the way through to final. Some of them live and continue to go through to final rendering and become in the movie.
I think people don't understand what is involved in performance capture yet. There's a lot of people I speak with and they still don't understand that it's not just your voice. You are actually there and you are acting with all of the other actors as well. So I think once people understand it more, then they will start to recognize it.
Thank you to Perri Nemiroff for hosting that interview talking about Christian Bale and Andy Serkis. Just cool to be in the room.
I was going to say, why are you thanking me for that? That was a pleasure.
You did a great job of getting them to talk about something that, you're right, is going to be a subject that, let's be honest, 5 years from now, this particular episode of Movie Talk, we are going to sound like dinosaurs because we're like, what is this motion capture? Is it considered? And they're going to be handing out awards left and right, or it will have evolved past it, or it's going to be its own category, its own award show with photorealistic animation. So Perri, after you were able to sit in that room, let me ask you, I'll phrase it this way. Is there any other reason that we actually need to settle on what a movie like The Lion King exists as other than for the award shows?
Other than for the award shows.
Because
I mean, there's probably behind the scenes type things that I'm not aware of, just in terms of like the structure of a department, the way a movie operates, or maybe even just what it means to these individuals. Because like you could tell that everybody that participated in that roundtable, they care what they're talking about. Whatever they're talking about and how everybody else out there looks at it kind of determines their careers.
Yeah,
so,
it was a roundtable from the Hollywood Reporter hosted one that had a lot of prominent people in the world of animation, what we alluded to at the top of the
I
topic.
would like to see them settle it just for peace of mind for everybody, and so that the way the outside world is looking in at their work is being looked at the right way, because what you bring up is one of the most fascinating parts of this conversation, and I think they call it keyframing, and just how when the animators go in, sometimes the actors aren't even aware. They do their performance capture performance, and then it's in the hands of animators, and maybe it's not necessarily what they're supposed to do, but they could then tweak and add emotion. And if that's happening, then we're talking about a completely different kind of collaboration here. And that's kind of what Brad Bird gets into at the end of the THR post as well, is he basically highlights the need for closer collaboration, because I think in the roundtable he was talking about Holly Hunter, who obviously has voiced Helen Parr for 2 films now, and during that film she sat in one of the animators' rooms for the first time, and she's learning about what everything has to happen to make that character come to screen in the most emotional way possible. So it's just, if these 2 teams maybe spent a little more time together, collaboration would just make a better movie overall, regardless of the definition of these things.
Yeah, but awards, that's the thing, right? And I think that's what's really interesting because we're a bit, I think what you said earlier, Mark, is correct. We're a bit dinosaur about it right now because this thing is still in its infancy. And so how is that going to be recognized by the Academy as we go forward? That's going to be fascinating to watch through the years, you know? And this idea of the combo, well, do you do a special award, not every year, but when it merits it, Special Achievement in Motion Capture Oscar? Like, that's a possibility there. So then you honor the actor and the animators who brought that performance to life in conjunction. That's certainly a possibility. You don't have to have it every year because I don't think we're going to have motion capture films every year that would merit that discussion. But
there's already a significant amount this year, though, that used it. I mean,
that becomes a thing.
Yeah, I think it definitely
Why
could.
not?
Look at, let's say, Mowgli. Also, we have Marwin coming up that uses it heavily.
Right.
But if that award comes into play before, let's say, there's an Oscar category for, I don't know, casting director or stunts, even though I want to see this recognized in the way it deserves, that's not going to fly.
I'm interested to see what the Oscar ceremony looks like in 2020, the one that's honoring the movies that were released in 2019. What is The Lion King? I mean, look, there is a conspiracy theory that may start to grow here because when they announced that they were going to do that the Oscars was going to have a category called the best popular movie, everybody assumed that's because Black Panther, Infinity War, Deadpool 2, big comic book movies that the Academy doesn't feel like belong in the top 10 movies, but now they have their own category. What if it's a way for the Academy to just put movies like The Lion King until they actually know what the hell it is or what to consider it? Because will The Lion King be nominated for Best Animated Movie?
That's a fair
for
point.
Best Live Action Movie? For the most popular movie?
Yeah.
I hope we're not talking about the most popular category ever, but when it comes to animation versus live action, the other interesting wrinkle to this whole situation is I think this is going to be one of the first movies where we have this conversation because I got my fingers crossed that Lion King is going to be great and it will warrant an Academy Award nomination. Let's say that's the route the movie does take. The other thing Disney has to consider with its awards campaign is, let's say a whole bunch of individuals that work in the animation field and determine who gets nominated, they're pissed about this movie going up against, more classically, whether we're talking about CG, hand-drawn, you name it, classically animated movies compared to this, and they get pissed about it, and they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to vote for that one because I'm mad, versus them putting it in live action and having a better chance of getting a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up, Perri. And it's because I think The Lion King was nominated for Best Picture the year it came out anyway. I know what Beauty and the Beast was, and I wonder if Lion King was...
There's three. It's Beauty and the Beast, Up, and I'm forgetting one.
I think it is Lion King.
Is it?
Wouldn't that be ironic if it got nominated for Best Picture in this way overall when this version comes out? I think it is. But that being said, I think it's a great point you bring up. How are animators going? Because this roundtable, some of these teacher roundtables, they're fun to read and sometimes get about like, oh, what I did. Oh, you're great, you're great, you're great. But when you strip that all away and get actual conversation about these subjects, this is maybe one of the greatest roundtables I've ever read. And I can't wait to go home and watch it and get even more involved in what they're talking about. And the nuance of how they spoke about it is interesting, which is what I think leads back to what you said. How are they going to vote for this? Will they vote against it? Will they vote for? Will they consider it animation? Will they themselves step outside this idea of what they think is animation versus what's going on? Like, will they want to be like, no, I don't want to go computer stuff, blah, blah, blah. Because I've been hearing on the fringes about Spider-Verse that people are mad that this is being, because it's computer animation combined with classical animation, and like, well, where does it really lie? And so that kind of stuff. So I just think we're in this technology, and progress always moves faster than we can catch up to it. So eventually the award shows will, but for now it's so much in its infancy. These are the great conversations to be having, because in the future we'll settle on it as a whole, and then it'll become what it is.
Yeah, and the good news, like if you're just a movie fan out there and you love going to the cinema, you don't have to worry about this. Just go enjoy the movie and let people know if you liked it or not. Bring your friends. If you enjoy Spider-Verse, great. I think it should be nominated for Best Picture. It's one of my 10 favorite of the year for sure. But if you are in the industry or you want to be in the industry, keep an eye on this kind of stuff, because I think that this could open doors for a lot of people who are working behind the scenes, people who are actors, performers. You might have more opportunities than currently exist in Hollywood if this kind of technology continues to evolve. Just quickly, two things to put a button on this conversation, then we'll get to your live Twitter questions. First of all, look, I love our beloved engineer, Cody Hall, as much as the next guy. He does a great job with the captions on Collider Live. He does a great job with these. Mufasa still dies, Cody.
Wow.
Is that... Is that I just
Wow,
noticed
Cody.
that is he's taking credit for doing it. I was talking about it with somebody literally today about The Lion King, and we're talking about how we're excited about it, but I'm like, I might just excuse myself to powder my nose in the men's room when I know this scene is happening because I don't want to relive it. So, Cody, I'm writing your name on the blackboard, not in a good way. The other note is there have been 3 animated films that have been nominated for Best Picture.
Uh-oh.
Beauty and the Beast is correct.
Yeah.
From 1991. Up in 2009. And what's the other one? Is it The Lion King?
I want to say it's Lincoln.
Aladdin? Oh. Is it another Pixar movie? What do you think it is?
Can you give me like a little baby hint?
I can give you a baby hint that it came out post 2000.
Son of a gun.
So it was not The Lion King.
Wall-E?
Not Wall-E. No.
It's going to bother me because I know what these 3 titles are, and the second you say it, I'm going to be like, why didn't I remember that?
Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
That's it.
Toy
that
Story
makes
Good
sense.
call.
3.
Good call.
That makes
Completing
sense.
the trilogy. It's rare that a movie that's the third in the series gets nominated, but Toy Story 3 did. Obviously, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and of course, the beloved Season of the Witch, Halloween 3.
Oh my God.
Best Picture winner the year it came out. All right, let's move on to some live Twitter questions. Before we do so, I just want to quickly remind everybody that tomorrow we got a stack day on Colliders. We usually do around Fridays here, and really, any day you come in here, there's going to be a lot of fun stuff popping on Collider Video. You get Movie Review Talk hosted by Scott freaking Mance. Sportsbook Weekend. I believe John Rocha is hosting that one.
Josh
Josh
McCouga
McCouga comes in talking about that Redskins-Jags line is going to move from 7.5. It should. The Schmoedown, also, we're ramping up towards the Schmoedown Spectacular, which airs December 21st, and TV Talk as well. And now we move on to a couple live Twitter questions, and we'll call it a day, and we'll call it a week. Brandon is picking right up off of this animated discussion, debate, which y'all kept very civil, much more civil than our beach house conversation. And he says, what animated movies are you guys looking forward to in 2019? For Brandon, he says Toy Story 4, Frozen 2, and The Secret Life of Pets,
Well,
Part
you just
2.
stole all my answers.
I think that's all of them.
You
Can
are
I
allowed
say
to
I'm
take
looking
one of
forward to
Brandon's.
The Lion King 2 then?
You can say The Lion King. Yeah. Given our discussion. Before going into this, maybe not, but yes, I will grant that.
I am very curious to see how everything pans out for Toy Story 4, though. I mean, just talking about Toy Story 3 getting that Best Picture nomination, that is it's not even just a high bar. That is the highest possible bar you could set yourself, and they've got to come back with something special. I got faith in Pixar, but that's going to be a challenge.
Okay, we also got the Lego Movie 2 coming out. How to Train Your Dragon
I'm
as a
dying
new
to see How to
film.
Train Your Dragon.
Looking forward to see. Not Hiccup, Toothless. I intimated that Hiccup was the one that was hooking up with a female dragon. That's a different movie for John Rocha's Florida State Beach House.
That's
Toy
Bumblebee.
Story 4.
Yeah,
That's
Never
right. I
made that
forgot about
joke.
the Bumblebee conversation. I think there's an Angry Birds movie coming out. I'm looking up some other ones. They counted The Lion King 2000. If the Addams Family movie is coming out in 2019, put that right at the top of my list. I love the Addams Family. And I'm excited to see that one. John Rocha, you got any other ones you want to toss in there? The Pokemon movie is not, it's a mix, but you have an animated Pokemon in there.
Looking forward to How to Train Your Dragon. Certainly, I love both of those films, but Toy Story 4 is the one that is the most curious to me because I don't need it, I don't want it, but I'm curious to see what they do with it. And if they, like Perri said, it's a high bar to cross. Forget awards. It's a high bar to cross for those of us who love that trilogy Are you going to ruin it? Is this a Crystal Skull Toy Story 4? Is this a Rocky 5 Toy Story 4? Or a Godfather Part 3? Or every installment of Jurassic Park franchise after the first one? Is it going to be that?
Excuse me.
Is it going to be that?
Spicy take.
Or is it going to be a really fantastic fourth installment in this franchise? Because I don't know where you go from.
Or is it going to be like every other Transformers movie, but Bumblebee? Who knows? It's crazy.
You mean make $4.5 billion? That's certainly possible. That's certainly possible.
All right, let's do one more to close out the week because it has been a busy week of movie news. We've enjoyed delivering it to y'all as we do each and every Monday through Thursday. And this one is, I hope that this question puts a nice little encapsulation and then we can all move on the Oscars. Still don't know who's hosting it.
no.
Still don't know if anybody's hosting it, if they are human, if they're Muppet. We don't know yet, but we do know that Luis is asking who would be a good and a bad Oscar host amongst the Collider staff. So who's your Oscar host, And who do you think would be the worst?
Are you just fishing for
Yeah, I
compliments?
swear
Because
to God.
obviously you would be the good Oscar
Shameless.
host.
Then
Shameless.
present company excluded. I want to know somebody else.
All right, but just to put it out there, I would pick
Yeah.
Mark Ellis
Me
as
too.
my Oscar host.
Me too.
This is tough. I think the worst. I was about to throw Jeff under the bus, but it's like he knows his stuff too, and he does have great respect for these movies.
Snyder is the worst because Snyder would not stop his mouth from making comments or little asides that would denigrate the movies
All right.
or the nomination.
Well, it might be tough to walk on stage to booze, but I think that he would. I think he'd get over, and I think he'd do a capable job.
What are you yelling at?
My best host and my worst host. The
Oh,
host
I
that I
have
most want
one.
to see,
Yeah.
and the host that I don't know how they would be. He did offer to host one of my upcoming comedy shows, and that's Frank. I want to see Frank.
Oh, my God.
I want to see Frank in a. I'm excited to see Frank host the
I
Oscars
wish.
way. Then I also just want to see Frank like what is going to happen at the Oscars.
Frank would rig the entire Oscars so Johnny Depp wins everything.
I would have to
That is
go.
very true.
I would have to go with a co, and that would be, I think, what I've seen Ken and Josh, how they host your comedy shows. They'd be great
good
because
one.
Ken would restrain Josh's impulses. to
McCougar
go
would be
a little-
running around in the crowd.
Yeah, a little too. But McCougar would give you that Ellen element of going in the crowd and getting people interacting. Whereas Ken would keep it moving along at a pace and be professional in how it's approached. But Josh would be the great kind of other part of it, and I think they would host it really well together. But yeah, I would have to say Snyder's the worst because Snyder wouldn't stop himself from making these comments or going, she won or he won? What? And there would be something like that. You know he couldn't stop
It would be
himself.
entertaining. Perry, you got any other nominations for the best and worst Oscar host? I will remind you, there's a guy that sits in the corner office that usually has headphones on and is watching screeners, but he does have some onstage experience.
So he could use like 75% of the Oscar ceremony to talk about Schmoedown.
Well, you guessed who I'm talking about.
Actually, there you go. Christian Orloff is my worst.
But you can turn the Oscars like literally it just becomes a movie trivia Schmoedown event, which I think a lot of people would. It may not get the ratings at ABC once, but as far as YouTube clicks go, I think that might be a new tier on Patreon is have the Schmoes host the Oscars and let us do a Schmoedown on it.
I think the best Oscar host in this office would be Cal.
There you go.
I like Cal the
I'm
Wonder
pretty
Dog.
sure I just settled it.
Cal and Dewey on stage, maybe not together. I don't know how Cal feels about Dewey or vice
Dewey's
versa.
very friendly, so
Dewey's
that's a
friendly.
Cal problem.
We have Molly can come in, do a little cameo. So I kind of like the Pets hosting the Oscars. Take note, everybody at the Academy. They had that big meeting on Tuesday night, and
we didn't hear
still
anything.
Waiting for.
I can't believe I'd completely forgotten about that.
Yeah.
When
That's
are they
right.
going to announce that Elsie Fisher and Bo Burnham are hosting the Oscars? I don't understand.
Oh my God.
I don't know. They're still gathered at a residence inn in Pasadena, figuring out who exactly is going to be hosting the Oscars. We'll let you know if we hear anything.
It's like the college football playoff. They're taking forever to decide who the hell they want.
So in the meantime, we'll stop John and let you get to the rest of your weekend. Have a great Friday and weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning into this weekend, every week of Collider Movie Talk. Thanks to our brave staff, with the exception of the person who made fun of Mufasa dying again. That is Perri Nemiroff. That is John Rocha. I am Millie Mark Ellis. See all the Comedy Store this weekend. And for upcoming tour dates, go to markellislive.com. Have a great, safe weekend, everyone. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.